Hi all, I hope I'm audible, right? Hello,
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
you are audible.
my screen is visible, right? Okay. So today we'll be developing an interface which is given to us by a client, right? We are working for a client called Prospecta. So we have a scenario. Let me first explain you the scenario, then I'll show you how we are doing this development. Okay. So every scenario is divided into two iFlows. First iFlow is collecting the data from the MDO APIs. There are three different API calls happening for collection of data. Then once we have the data from the APIs, then we are sending it to a second iFlow, which is doing the mapping for the target site structure, and then sending it to a third party or SAP in this case. Okay, so we have MDO as our source for the data and SAP as the target. Okay, so these are the current scenarios which have been developed on the same principles. So I'll take you through one of these. So as you can see on the screen, right? First we have taken an inbound HTTPS sender adapter. Okay, this HTTPS is our sender adapter. Here whatever we give in this connection address, this will be the endpoint of our iFlow. Okay, as soon as our iFlow is deployed, a complete URL is generated with this endpoint. Okay, this is the role that should be assigned to the user who is sending the data. If the user does not have this role, you'll get that 401 unauthorized error. Okay, and since we are not using a tokenized principle, this is disabled. If we would have been using the tokenized authentication, this would have been enabled. Okay, you can interrupt me in between if you have any issues, anything you are not understanding. Okay, then what we are doing is we are going into a process call for generating a token to call MDO. Okay, for calling MDO to fetch the data, we have to generate a token. Okay, now see, this is the process call. First I'll take you to the process call. This is the process call that is happening. Okay, what it is doing is when it starts, it sends the request to MDO for token generation. Okay, what is there in the request? This is the process direct endpoint which it is calling. Okay, so let me just open the process direct iFlow as well. Sorry. So this is the iFlow which is generating the JWT token. Okay, so as soon as this process direct is initiated, see the endpoint here is similar to what we have given here. Okay, this is very essential for calling a process direct. The endpoint should be same in the sender and the receiver. Okay, so as soon as we call this process direct, it gives what? It gives organization, which is a header required by the API and the value of it. Okay, then with the request reply, we are calling the API for the token, and this is the URL and this is the parameter. Okay, query or parameter are same thing. Okay, parameter is username and password. We are passing it in URL, so it is a working as a parameter for us. Okay, then when we receive the token, we are doing a JSON to XML conversion. Okay, now what we are doing is we are adding the root named root here, Okay, root is the top element of a message. Okay, if we don't want, we can untick this box and no header will be added. And if we want our header name to be added, we can replace this root with whatever name we want to work with. Okay, then we are filtering out the token from the entire message. Okay, this is the field which is giving us the token, so we are filtering out just the token. We don't want anything else which is part of the standard message. Okay, then we are using a Groovy script for logging the message. Okay, we are logging the token so that it is there with us for our reference if we want to see it. Okay, then it is sending it back to the primary iFlow. Okay, via this end message, it is sending the token back to the primary iFlow. Hope I am clear to this part. Hello, anyone there?
Yes.
Akash, are you there on call?
Yes.
Can you just explain what is this, how we are calling this process direct, and what this flow is doing? Can you explain to me again, please? Akash? See, I'll be very frank. If you don't want to be a part of this session, it is not a mandatory session. If you're not listening, I don't want to waste my breath on it. If you don't want to be a part of this session, you are free to drop off. Okay, I'll move on. Let it be. Once I get the token from that process direct iFlow, what I'm doing is I'm taking the token, adding the bearer prefix to that token. Okay, bearer is what is required as it is a bearer token. Okay, then making it as a header and a property. Sorry, only a header in this case. Whatever is there in the body, I am making it as a header for authorization. And since it is a string type, we have declared it in the data type. Okay, then sending it back to this second step. Okay, once this process call is finished, the second step has a body of token and has a header of authorization which has that bearer space token. Okay, then we are making the content type as XML JSON. We are changing the content type here and we are passing the body. Now this body is a hard-coded body. We don't have to do anything. It is given by the client that this is the body we have to pass in order to fetch the data for first API. Okay. Then once we get this body created, we are sending again another request for getting the list of what are the possible values for the third API. Okay, so this gives us a number, basically an ID with which we will be getting all the records in our next API call. Okay, so again, URL and module ID, view ID, page ID. This is what they are expecting in the second call. Okay, this can differ from every API to API. So once we get the records from this, we are again generating a token for this third call to happen. Okay, again generating a token for this third call to happen. Then This is a sequential multicast. So what it does is, whatever payload it gets from this step, first it will send to this wing, then it will send to this wing. Okay. So once this token is generated, we come back to this wing. So here JSON is then converted to XML. Then it goes into an XSLT mapping. What this XSLT mapping does is, it extracts all the IDs and gives it to the target structure. Okay, so it extracts all the IDs that were there in the response slash ID. Okay, ID is where we are getting all the IDs from the second API. In this field, whatever data comes, this XSLT will extract it from this ID field and give it to the target structure. Then we go to content modifier. What content modifier does is, again, it creates an exchange property. Whatever is there in the body, it is now in this exchange property. Okay. Then we are creating a body after that. So here, as you see, we have called that property here. Okay. What these are fixed values. These are fixed values. Only the IDs are dynamically added to this square bracket, inside the square bracket. Okay. Once this is done, we are sending our third request. Okay. Similar condition here also, only the URL has changed. Now we are getting get records, right? And module ID, page ID and everything is same. Then once this is done, we receive a response with all the data. See, all the data. We are doing a conversion. मैं आपको थोड़ी देर में कॉल करता हूँ. एक कॉल में कॉल करता हूँ. आवाज आ रही है मेरी? मैं बोल रहा था एक कॉल में हूँ, मैं आपको थोड़ी देर में करता हूँ. वो मैंने देखा, आपका मेल देखा है. I'll share that by today. हाँ, आज दे दूँगा. Okay, so once we have this, second payload, we are converting it again back to XML. Then we are filtering out what is the response. Okay, so response के ऊपर जो भी स्ट्रक्चर है, when I filter the response out, तो उसके ऊपर का सारा स्ट्रक्चर वहाँ से हट जाता है. It is not a part of that XML message anymore. Okay. Then we are doing a mapping. Why? Because in the response structure, the records are repeating from this record response. Okay. But in the target structure, the records are repeating from this MDO record. Okay. So what we had to do is, we had to disregard this one entity in between, and we had to map it from this to this. Okay. Then going forward, we are again going into a request reply, calling our second iflow via process direct. Okay. Now, what is this process direct having as an endpoint? 496.111. Okay. To design. This was one package, one iflow. Now we are going to the second iflow, which is part of a second package. Okay. So here was asset criticality. Here also we'll search for asset criticality. Now you will notice that whatever was there in that first process direct will be here in the second process direct as well. Okay. Then what we are doing is, with the help of this content modifier, we are we are producing this headers, okay? What we also say that as parameters. So this is what we are producing in this content modifier. We are logging the setting the property of log payload to true. Then we are doing the mappings. Then logging the payload after mapping. Then calling the second process call. This process call, what it does is it creates the payload, right? It adds the payload in this property. It is adding the auth key. It is adding the content type. Okay. Then it is calling this AMQP adapter, which is actually posting your messages, end messages to a event mesh queue. Okay. This is the host for that event mesh port, and now this is the topic in that event mesh where we are producing the data. Okay. Once we are able to generate or store our messages in the queue, we are checking whether it is a success or a failure. Okay. So based on that, as you saw in the first content modifier, we created these, right? So we are calling the headers in this body, then logging the payload with the help of this Groovy script, then calling process visibility. Okay, what this process visibility is doing is, again, it is calling a process direct, and it is a final iflow where we are storing whatever is our end result. Are we clear on what I just explained, how we are working on these iflows?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So now what we will do, ask for it.
मैपिंग जो यूज किया था उसके जगह कुछ और यूज करके हम लोग नहीं कर सकते हैं क्या?
बताओ कैसे करोगे, बताओ। क्या ये रिक्वेस्ट भेज रहा हूँ इसमें, तब से सेंड कर रहा हूँ। ये मेरा पहला कॉल है, ठीक है? ये पेलोड है, इसमें मेरे पास आईडीज आ रही है, ये आईडी, ये मुझे उठाना, इसमें मुझे स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट में प्रोड्यूस करना है, कैसे करोगे बताओ? दिखाओ क्या?
रूबी से नहीं होता है।
रूबी भी तो कोड ही लिखोगे, एक्सेसिबिलिटी भी तो कोड ही, जो कोड आसान लगे उसे लिखो. Okay, now I don't have the structure from the target end. So what I'll do is, meanwhile, I'll show you how we are creating this for the, at least for the source structure. Okay. I'll share my screen again. At least we'll complete the first I flow. And Rajiv, please check this, because going forward, you will have to do this sort of developments, as I may be in crunch of time sometimes. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, this is what client has given us, and on the basis of what we are doing the developments. Okay. So client has given us this. Okay. I'll download this. So in this, if you see, these are the two iFlows that we have to work on: routable and DDA compliant. Okay. So this is the MDO JSON, which is the source JSON. Okay. This is what will be coming from the MDO APIs. An XSD for this structure. This two. Pasting the JSON. Converting it to an XML. Okay. Just verifying whether it is correct or not. Copy. Then taking this. Copying this. created an XSD for the source structure. What we will do is we'll create a copy of, let's say, any of these iFlows. So I'll copy asset criticality. Create a copy. Give it create a copy. Central table. Go into this. What we have to change is we have to change this module ID. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible again. Structure from
वेरिएबल पे भी नहीं दिया था
asset row table we have done. Now what we have to do is we have to change the structure with our structure. Okay. So we'll go to resources. We'll add a schema. Add the XSD we just created. Okay. Then go to mapping. Now you see the structure has been changed, right? If you go in this, see, these are the new fields that are there, and these are the old fields that are mapped. Okay. You see the occurrence has changed. Why? Because these fields are not a part of this new XSD, but because there is a mapping with these fields, it is still there. Okay. What we have to do is what mistake we did while creating XSD was that we created, but we did not make the fields as non-mandatory. We kept all the fields as mandatory. That is not the case. There may be some cases where the fields do not get generated. But since we are doing a one-to-one mapping, because we are passing the source to target structure, we don't need to do that. Okay. First, what we will do is
डायरेक्ट इम्पोर्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं स्टेप वाइज
can directly import also. That is also possible. Yeah. To the request now. Deleting all the existing mappings. I will first do is I'll map it in this place. Okay. Do a one-to-one mapping for all the fields. See, all the fields have been mapped one-to-one. The relevant target fields. Okay. Once all the fields are mapped, then we go to control data again. The one-to-one mapping for all the fields. Okay. Clear on this. Then what I explained to you, right? This is not the field where we will be getting multiple. This add it here. The mapping is done, right? Since this process direct is directing to a different, we have to change it to our. We will take the ID. table. Model ID equals to 693.139. Sit in 3 places. This placing it in URL as well. Okay. Taking my mapping. This has changed from 1 to 1 star. Star means I have not saved it as a version because it has not been tested up till now. Our unit testing is done, then I'll save it as a version. Okay. This as well. Okay. This is the iFlow we just copied. Yes. Next we will change the process direct. Will give the same endpoint as we have. The iFlow 693.399. Be receiving from that point to the map. Can directly upload in this place also. Have to remove these mapping data from or we can do sleep done mapping. Yes, removed. there are a few additional fields which are not required. We'll remove fields like these three fields are not required for us. We'll remove it. First will our mappings. Okay. This is the field that has to be mapped to ID and value. Anji, okay. 869. This is the field which has the value actually. Description is in this one. Strange, the field is not there. Okay, now check for this field later. Then this is how we have developed this. Okay, after this mapping is done, our development is complete. You can straight away give the client the iFlow URL and he can start his unit testing. Okay. I hope I was clear on this iFlow and the design. If there's any doubts, you can ask any of the steps that we did. ठीक है. If there is no question, I'll drop for now. You guys are not clear on anything, you can let me know. जब तक डेवलपमेंट किया तब तक सब किया. चलिए कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछो तो.